Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Ketubot. We are up to Perek Bet Mishnah Yud. Today's Mishnayot should be Le'elu Nishmat, Neria ben Svetlana, Ranbayev Eliyahu ben Burcha Yisrael, ben Chana bad Miriam, Menuchatam began Eden, Amen, and Avdi ben Chaim lechaim, for the Refuah Shelemav, Daniel Shalom ben Rosa, Betoch Shar Chulei Yisrael. Generally, in order for the testimony of a witness to be accepted, he must be a qualified witness, not only when he's giving his testimony, but also when he saw the event about which he is testifying. For this reason, an adult cannot testify about an event that he saw when he was a minor. The Mishnah lists some exceptions to this law. These are cases in which people are believed to testify in their adulthood about what they saw in their childhood. Ne'eman adam lomar, a person is believed to say, Ze ktav yado shel Abba, I remember from my childhood that this is the handwriting of my father, V'ze ktav yado shel Rabbi, or this is the handwriting of my teacher, V'ze ktav yado shel Achi, or this is the handwriting of my brother. Even though he had not seen the handwriting of his father, teacher, or brother since he was a minor, he can testify about it when he is an adult and thereby verify the signatures on a financial document. Since verifying signatures is required only under rabbinic law, the rabbis had the authority to rule that such testimony is good. Now we have learned that if a lender, for example, produces a document to prove that he has owed money, but the borrower claims that it is forged, the lender must verify the signatures on the document. We spoke about it in chapter 2, Mishnah 3. However, it is necessary to verify the signatures only according to rabbinic law. Under biblical law, there is no need for verification because it is assumed that no one would have the audacity to forge the signatures on a document, as Rashi explains in Masechet Gittin on page 3a. The Mishnah's ruling that a witness can testify about what he saw when he was a child, the commentators explain, applies only to one of the two witnesses that are needed to verify a document. The testimony of the second witness must meet the standard requirements. A person is believed to say, I remember from my childhood that on her wedding day, so-and-so went out of her father's house to the house of her groom with a veil over her eyes or with her hair untied. He thereby testifies that she was a virgin when she got married and is entitled to a ketubah of 200 zuz. This testimony is enough because most brides are virgins in any event. As taught in Mishnah 1, only a virgin would wear a veil over her eyes or have her hair untied. Now, usually in order to obligate a person to pay money, as in the payment of the ketubah, a testimony of two adult men is necessary. This case, however, is different because most brides are virgins, and testimony is required only to establish that this particular bride is from the majority. And as in the Mishnah's previous case, the commentators explain, this leniency applies to only one of the two witnesses that are required. A person is believed to say, I remember from my childhood that so-and-so who studied with us in school would leave the schoolhouse and immerse himself in a mikveh to purify himself to eat tirumah, or he would share tirumah with us at the goren, at the granary. His testimony suffices to let that person eat rabbinic tirumah. Now, tirumah was distributed at granaries after the grain had been threshed and heaped in piles. Now, on the basis of such testimony, the person is allowed to eat only rabbinic tirumah. For example, tirumah separated from produce that grew not in the ground, but in a pot in which there is no hole through which the plant could draw nourishment from the ground. That's tirumah midrabanan. From that, he can eat based off this testimony of this person. A person is believed to say, I remember from my childhood that this place is a bet pras. A bet pras is an area of land in which a grave was plowed over. The sages were concerned that the plow might have crushed some bones and scattered them. They decreed, therefore, that anyone who goes within 100 amot of the grave, becomes tameh. A person is, like we said, believed to say, I remember from my childhood this place is a bet pras. Since the tomb of a bet pras is only rabbinic, the rabbis decree that this testimony is acceptable. The person is believed to say that the bet pras extends only up to a certain point and no further. It is not possible to make a new measurement because the exact place of the grave is no longer known. The person is believed to say, I remember from my childhood that we would go this far from the city on Shabbat. The rabbis ruled that such testimony is good because it concerns the laws of Tchum Shabbat, which are rabbinic. The sages decree that on Shabbat and Yom Tov a person may not go more than 2,000 amot from his town. This limit is known as a Tchum Shabbat or just Tchum. The witness mentioned in the Mishnah is the witness that is mentioned in the Mishnah is believed to testify where the Tchum of his town ended. His testimony removes the need to make a new measurement. Now, in the following cases, though, a person cannot testify about what he saw as a child because they involve monetary law. However, a person is not believed to say, I remember from my childhood that so-and-so had a path in this place which ran through someone else's land. Or so-and-so had a spot for stopping eulogizing the dead in this place. When a dead person was taken to be buried, the procession of mourners would stop 7 times in the way. At each stop, eulogies would be delivered. Now, a person is not believed to say so-and-so had a spot for stopping and eulogizing the dead in this place in someone else's land. Since these statements concern the ownership of land, which is a monetary matter, testimony based on childhood memory is invalid. Rather, testimony of 2 fully qualified witnesses is necessary. That is in Rabotai of chapter 2, Mishnah 10. We continue now with chapter 3, Mishnah 1. This Mishnah lists cases in which a man who violated an unmarried virgin Nara must pay the fine of 50 shkalim as required by the Torah. A Nara is a girl between 12 and 12 and a half years old. Just to explain an introduction, there are 3 stages in the life of a maturing girl. She is a ktana, a minor, from the day of her birth until she grows 2 pubic hairs after she reaches the age of 12. For the next 6 months, she is a nara, a partial adult. Once the 6 months have passed, she is a bogeret, a full adult. So our Mishnah is going to list cases in which a man who violated an unmarried virgin nara must pay the fine of 50 shkalim as is required by the Torah. The Mishnah refers to an ones, a violator. Most of its laws, however, apply equally to a mefateh, a seducer. Just to explain that as well, the difference between a violator and a seducer, the Mishnah is going to discuss penalties that the Torah imposes on such people. Now, in each case, there is some reason to think that he is exempt from paying, and so it's necessary for the Mishnah to teach that this is not true. Elu ne'arot shesh lehem knas, these na'arot have a right to the fine. Habala mamzeret val nitina val kutit. If one cohabited with a nara who is a mamzeret, a nitina or a kutit, he must pay the fine even though he is not allowed to marry her. A mamzeret is a female mamzer, a nitina is a female natin, which we spoke about earlier, and the kutim were a people who settled in Eretz Yisrael toward the end of the First Temple era. When they were attacked by lions, they converted to Judaism in hope of being saved. After their conversion, however, they returned to their old beliefs and practices. According to this Tana of our Mishnah, their conversion was not valid. So even though he's not allowed to marry her, if he cohabited with this nara, he must pay the fine. הבעל גיורת ולשבויה ולשפחה שנפדו ושנתגיירו ושנשתחררו בפחותות מבנות 3 שנים ויום אחד. If one cohabited with a nara who is a convert, a ransom captive, or a freed Canaanite maidservant who has been ransomed, converted, or freed under the age of 3 years and 1 day, he must pay the fine because despite her background, she is considered to be a virgin. הבעל אחותו ועל אחות אביו ועל אחות אמו ועל אחות אשתו ועל אשת אחיו ועל אשת אחי אביו ועל נידה. If one cohabited with a nara who is either his sister, his father's sister, his mother's sister, his wife's sister, his brother's ex-wife, which the Mishnah is speaking of a case of a nara who was previously married to the violator's brother, was divorced before the violation occurred, she is nevertheless forbidden to the violator because she was once married to his brother, which is eshet achiv, which applies even after the marriage ended. In all these cases, she must have been divorced during a Husin, because if she were divorced after Nisuin, she would not be considered a virgin. And the next case is father's brother's ex-wife, which in these last 2 cases where the Nara had been once married, the fine is paid to her, not her father, or a Nida. Yesh lehem knas aval pi she'en bi'karet en b'hem mitat bet din. They have a right to the knas because although they are forbidden to him under penalty of karet, whoever cohabits with any of these women gets punished by karet. They are not forbidden to him under penalty of execution by the court. If cohabiting with the girl would be punishable with execution by the court, the man will be exempt from having to pay the fine, as the following Mishnah teaches. In these cases, though, where the punishment is karet and not execution, he is obligated to pay. It's a general rule that a person who becomes liable to 2 punishments at the same time receives only the more severe punishment, not the lighter one. We say, kamle bidraba mine. Therefore, for example, a man who cohabited with a virgin nara who is betrothed does not have to pay the fine. Since the punishment for cohabitation with a betrothed or married woman is execution by the court, which is a more severe punishment than a monetary fine, he receives only the punishment of execution and is exempt from the fine. We learn this from a pasuk in the Torah. The next Mishnah discusses it. However, the Torah makes an exception where the 2 punishments are karet and a fine, in which case the sinner is punished with both. And that is the Rabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.